All right, welcome back to another episode of Meal Prep Monday with me, Noah Casada, registered dietitian, as I break down 3 high protein recipes for an overall high protein meal plan that's going to serve me, myself and my significant other for the next week or so. So in today's episode, what we are going to break down is we're going to break down a chocolate chip oatmeal bake. We're also going to do a shrimp fajita bowl. We are going to do a sweet potato broccoli casserole. And then I'll kind of give you some of the quick things that we'll do for dinner and what those recipes and meals will look like for dinner as well. So stay tuned. If you do find it that you do like one of these recipes in specific and don't want to have to watch this whole video again, I have went ahead and broken the video up into each recipe as well, so you can look for that. I'll put the links in the description as well. All right, so an overview of Meal Prep Monday is gonna be essentially this. We're gonna go through a chocolate chip oatmeal bake. Super delicious, super quick, super easy. Ground turkey, eggs, cheese, sweet potato, casserole I kind of just put together. And then following that, we're gonna do a shrimp fajita taco bowl. And in addition to the shrimp fajita taco bowl, we're gonna walk through what dinner would look like for our first recipe on Meal Prep Monday is we are gonna create a chocolate chip oatmeal bake. This thing is delicious. We are gonna walk through the ingredients. We'll also look at how to make this as far as the instructions and baking length that we need to use. In addition to that, we'll go through the calories and macronutrients at the end. So for this baked oatmeal recipe that we've got going on here, we are going to be using a little bit of sugar. We've got oatmeal, protein powder, maple syrup, semi-sweet chocolate chip, baking powder, egg, walnuts, egg whites, fat-free milk, salt as well. So these are going to be the ingredients that we're going to go ahead and put together. I'm going to use a food scale for this, but feel free to also use a measuring utensils like cups as well, as I'll give you both of the information here. So we're going to go ahead and start out by putting all of our dry ingredients into this guy. So that's going to include 243 grams of oatmeal or about 3 cups of dried oats. 3 cups of oats in there. Now we're gonna go ahead and add in 93 grams of our whey protein, or roughly 3 scoops. Tar out here. Alrighty, there's our protein powder. Next up, we're gonna put about 1 teaspoon of baking powder, or roughly 5 grams. Next, we're gonna put in a little bit of salt. About a dash, or about maybe a half a gram if you're being really precise. We're gonna put in about a tablespoon, or roughly 5 grams of unsweetened cocoa powder. Go ahead and give it a good mix as well. All right, we're gonna set this guy off to the side. Next up, we are gonna ingredients. We'll add all our wet ingredients into this bowl here. And as we did with our dry, I'll give you volume measurements and also measurements in weight. We'll start out with 1 egg here. Next up, fat-free milk. We're gonna do 2 cups. Followed up with some egg whites. We'll do about 10 tablespoons, or about 150 grams. Next up, we're gonna do 2 teaspoons of some vanilla extract. Finally, we'll add in about a tablespoon of butter, melted. Let's go ahead and take our food scale and put it off to the side here, and we will mix. And get this egg broken up, everything nice and mixed in there. Perfect. All right, now we're gonna take our dry ingredients and we're gonna mix them with our wet ingredients. Next up, we will add in our 1/3 cup of walnuts. It should be about 40 grams, followed by our 1/3 cup of chocolate chips, our 2 teaspoons of sugar. Give this another mix here. Awesome, we'll set this to the side for just a sec. We'll take a large baking dish, coat it with some sort of spray. Oven heated to 350. We're gonna put this in there. And we're gonna bake for 30 minutes, check on it, but could use probably another 10 minutes or so to get it finished. All right, well that's baking. I'm gonna clean up from that one. Just a quick straighten up, and then we're gonna move on to our sweet potato, broccoli, ground turkey, egg casserole that we're gonna make. All right, so we've got our ingredients here. We're gonna go ahead and start getting prepped and ready to go while we've got the baked oats going right now. So hopefully we can get this kind of done, put together at least. So for when that's coming out, this can go in. Okay, so for this next one, we've got our ingredients here. We're gonna do a ground turkey, sweet potato recipe. That's also going to use some broccoli, some eggs, some casserole. It's going to be more of a breakfast dish. So in total, we've got egg whites, broccoli, sweet potatoes, mozzarella cheese, some whole eggs, some ground turkey. We've also got some applesauce, Italian seasoning, and some maple syrup, along with some milk, salt and pepper to taste. But that's where we'll start with this one. All right, so to get us started here, I'm gonna go ahead and peel my potatoes and break them down into a little bit more smaller bite-sized chunks and get our onion prepped. We've already got our broccoli ready to roll, so we'll be able to put that in pretty easily, and then we'll start putting this together. Potatoes are peeled. Go ahead and chop them. All right, so next up we've got our broccoli, which we're actually gonna mix in with our about 410 grams of sweet potato. We're gonna put about at least 200, maybe, see how much that is, maybe 300 grams of broccoli in as well. Boom. So next up we're gonna get a little bit of onion ready to roll. Onions are ready to roll. All right, so next up, now that we've got our sweet potato prepped, we've got our broccoli prepped, we've got our onions chopped, we're kind of ready to get things put together now. So we've got ground turkey, we're gonna mix in some applesauce, some maple syrup. Yes, I know it sounds weird, but it's gonna be delicious. We're gonna throw in some Italian seasoning to about 1.5 pounds of turkey. And all right, so our oven just went off for the bake, and honestly, it's looking really good. All right, so it does still need a few more minutes. If you can see the sides, they're still a little watery, so it's probably got about another 10 minutes. So what I'm gonna do is actually, I like to add a little bit of maple syrup to the top of it now, and then let it bake a little bit more with this all over the top of it. Then I'll go ahead and add about another 10 minutes or so. All right, so for this recipe, we're gonna start with 1 tablespoon of olive oil. Toss in our onions. Give it a little mix. Ready to roll. We've got about 1/2 cup of applesauce, 2 tablespoons of some maple syrup, all of which are gonna go into here along with some Italian seasoning. Next up, Italian seasoning. Followed by some maple syrup and our applesauce. What we'll do now is break this apart. And let that cook for just a few minutes. All right, our oatmeal bake is looking pretty good here. Just came out of the oven, so it's super hot. We're gonna let this cook for about 40 minutes, and we've got the maple syrup on top, sink through a little bit. All right, it looks like we've got a lot going on, and we do, right? We're meal prepping, we're getting things ready to go. So we've got our oatmeal chocolate chip bake over here, and then we've got our ground turkey, applesauce, maple syrup, everything cooking over here. We're gonna whip together the eggs and make the dish at this point for the ground turkey, broccoli, sweet potato, egg casserole. I don't know what the thing is called quite yet, but you know, it's bomb, so stay tuned. All right, so next up, we're gonna go ahead and get our 6 eggs, 1/2 cup of egg whites, 1/2 cup of milk, all mixed together nicely so it goes into our dish very easily. Get everything mixed together. Get our milk in there, about a 1/2 cup. 3/4 cup of egg whites. Again, we'll go ahead and mix that together. All right, so we got our dish here, we'll go ahead and add in our broccoli and sweet potato mix here.
Make sure everything's nice and mixed up.
All right, next we've got our turkey matrix here combo. Go ahead and I'll put about half right here. We've got our eggs. We'll go ahead and mix this guy up here. Make sure everything's nice and coated. Lastly, before this goes in the oven, I've got about a cup of grated low-fat mozzarella cheese. We'll go ahead and sprinkle that across the top here. Put this guy in the oven for about anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour. Let this bake. You just want the sweet potato to be soft, eggs to be set, and broccoli to be somewhat set as well. Start with 45. For this actual last meal prep meal that we'll be making for Meal Prep Monday, for a 2,700 calorie meal plan, and for a 1,500 calorie meal plan is going to be essentially a kind of shrimp fajita bowl matrix that I'm making. So we've got some frozen shrimp, we've got some bell pepper that's running away. We actually got two of those. We got some red pepper or some red onion. We've got some tomato. We've also got some onion, garlic, lime, rice, jalapeno, we've got some green chilies, black beans, and corn. We're gonna put this together in an awesome meal that'll probably last us 3 to 4 days, give or take. And we can use that then, we can prep half of it now and come around Wednesday and use our dinner for Wednesday or something along those lines is typically how we do it. So since the rice is probably gonna take the longest of this meal, I'm gonna go ahead and get that rolling first. So I'm gonna get it measured, get it rinsed, and get it into the rice cooker. So we're going to start here. We're going to do roughly about 2 cups or about 370 grams, give or take. So right, I measured 2 cups, but I was like, okay, I'll give the grams here as well. But as you can see, right, there's a huge difference here. There's probably a quarter of a cup left over versus, if I were able to, if I was just doing a measurement versus an actual grammed weight on it. Get some cold water, and we're gonna rinse it. Get the shrimp that we've got. We're gonna put it in some cold water and let them thaw out for a little while we get the rest of the vegetables and everything else prepped. Okay, so some nutrition facts here. The shrimp is roughly about 4 ounces per serving, or 112 grams. That's actually what's indicated in this bag at this point, not cooked or anything else. So we are going to get this weighed out and measured, try and do about 4 to 6 servings, hopefully out of this, and then get that thawed and ready to roll. Okay, so while we're waiting for the shrimp and the rice to get cooked, we'll go ahead and start preparing some of our vegetables. Starting out with some garlic. Next up, we've got our other half of the onion that we didn't use from the ground turkey and sweet potato broccoli casserole that we were making. So we'll get that ready to roll. All right, so we'll use this to cook the shrimp as well. So we got that nice and ready to go once those are thawed. Next up, we'll cut our onion. Okay, since we're doing these as a fajita mix, we'll chop it like such. Then we got a little bit of tomato here that we're gonna get cut up. All right, so now that we got all our vegetables prepped and we've got our shrimp peeled, we're gonna go ahead and cook our shrimp and our fajitas and go ahead and start getting ready to assemble that meal. 1 tablespoon olive oil. We're gonna next put in our onion and garlic matrix, get a little flavor. Next, we'll go ahead and put in our shrimp. Followed by some taco seasoning. A little bit of olive oil, about a half a tablespoon. And then we are gonna take our mix here, plop it in there. So we've pretty much concluded at this point the Monday meal prep video for both the 1500 calorie high protein diet and also the 2700 calorie high protein diet. So I'm gonna give you guys a quick rundown of what that looks like now that it's finished. And this is before we do any of the serving sizes or portion sizes. So definitely stay tuned for that because that's also a pretty important piece too. So let's get into it. So starting us off here, we've got our oatmeal bake with protein powder. It's our chocolate chip oatmeal bake with protein powder. This is gonna be meal number 1 for me, and Sydney's actually not gonna eat this, so this is gonna give me an extra about 400 calories. Again, we'll go through calories and macro breakdowns on each of these after we do portion sizes, so stay tuned for that as well. Next up, we do have our breakfast here. This was the kind of casserole to some degree with the broccoli. It had the sweet potato, it also had the eggs, and also the kind of turkey sausage, but we made it with ground turkey instead. So we've got this here as well. Before we move on over here, we're actually gonna, these are the ingredients essentially to prepare the taco bowl. So we've got, of course, right, our shrimp, we've got our white rice, we've got our fajita mix, we've got a couple jalapenos. I don't think Sydney's gonna want jalapenos, but I'm gonna put some on mine. We've got our tomato, corns, rice, and green chilies that we're gonna use as well. And then finally, yeah, a little bit of avocado. And then we're gonna come over to what an example kind of dinner looks like. So, right, we've got a quick pork chop here. This is actually from tonight's dinner, which is gonna be, we made one, we've got one for leftover for tomorrow. So it's gonna be some sort of matrix of this. So, right, we've got a green, we've got asparagus this week. We've got some, you know, sweet potato. I think we're also gonna use some white potato for this week. And then it'll be, our protein sources will vary from a whitefish, a tilapia, we'll do a salmon, or we have, of course, the pork chop as well. And so that was what a dinner will look like. So now that we kind of see how these are all broken down and how we've got them going essentially for this Meal Prep Monday, what each is gonna go, how much, right? How much do we need of each in order to kind of fulfill each of these two kind of categories, right? Both the 1500 and the 2700. So let's get into portion sizing and measuring and weighing and all that fun stuff right after this. So to start us off for the first portion size, we are gonna do the 1500 calories. So like I said, we are gonna start with 100 grams. We've got our black beans we're gonna go with next. We are gonna do 58 grams. Do about another 50 odd grams here. Protein source, we did start out with close to 600, almost 700 grams. After weighing, or after cooking and all that fun stuff, we're down to about 470. So when we divide that across 6 meals, the protein source is gonna stay the same, about 3 ounces. We are gonna get close to about 76 grams per serving. So let's go ahead and measure that out here. So it ends up being about 7-8 shrimp. So from there, we are gonna go ahead and add some of our veggies. A little bit of tomatoes as well. Maybe put these over here. Finally, just a good spoonful of And so that's going to be our first one. This is going to align more or less with a 1,500 calorie, like I said, about 130 grams of protein. This is going to be a good portion here. We'll go over calories and macros here in just a minute. And moving on to the 2,700 calorie meal plan, our next bowl, which is going to get 150 grams of rice. Again, we're going to hit it with about 50 grams of beans, another 50 grams of corn. Again, we're going to keep the protein size the same here at about 75 grams, 76 grams. Let's get some veg on there. Lastly, we're going to do a little bit of avocado. Top it off with a lime. And there you go. All right. So next up, we got our breakfast that's going to work for the both of us. We've got this behemoth of a quiche that somehow magically made it out of its pan. Looks delicious. And so the final cooked weight on this guy was about 2,000 grams, 2,003 grams. So we're going to divide that by 6. That's going to give us about 33 grams per serving. Now with this one, we're not going to do a difference in serving between the 1,500 and the 1,700. Remember, there is another meal coming in for the 2,700, excuse me. So definitely, we're going to just keep this one the same. We're going to try and shoot for about 330 grams. I don't know if I can cut that well, so it might not be perfect. Nonetheless, let's get after it. All right, so here we've got our essentially 2,700 calorie meal plan and then about 1,500 calorie meal plan. And as you can see here, we've got an extra meal. We've got breakfast, we've got a snack, then we've got lunch. We also have another snack and then dinner at the back, which will be pretty similar throughout. So let's go through these really quick. So on the 1,500 calorie side, we've got the egg bake, both same size servings. We're running about 330 grams, give or take. Then for the 1,500 calorie, now we also have a cheese stick, about 50 grams of raspberries, a Greek yogurt, followed by the lunch we just made, which was a shrimp fajita taco bowl. And then finally, we've got dinner over here with a lean protein, which is going to be either fish, pork, or a pork chop, or finally a salmon dish. So it'll be one of the three. We got our greens, and we got either white potato, or sweet potato. Then on the 1,500 calorie side, as you can see, we've got a breakfast with a baked oats, and finally we've got about another 330 grams of our casserole there as well. We've got Greek yogurt, we've got an apple. This will probably go with peanut butter as well to get a few extra grams of fat. Got the similar bowl with a little bit more rice. Instead of 100 grams in the 1,500 calories, we've got about 150 grams. And then finally, we got a snack. We've got a cheese stick. We've got some little chewy bar, and then also a packet of popcorn as well. There also could be essentially a protein shake depending on if we go to the gym and blast legs or something along those lines. And then finally, for the 2,700 calorie, which would be a similar dinner, right? Lean protein, veggie, and a carb source. And so, right, there is your difference of 1,500 versus 2,700, trying to do similar couples meal plan, but right, big differences in energy output and energy intake, hunger, all that fun stuff. So it gives you guys kind of a spread of what that might look like.